Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack and this is the Frankenlease. It is a Lotus Elise S1 and it is my favourite ever driving car. It has even displaced Fred, my Austin Healey Sprite that was always going to be a keeper. I absolutely love that car, but this thing drives like no other. And it's not just about speed or the finesse of handling. I'll tell you what it is about this car in a second, but there could be a little problem in the works here, and that is that a friend of mine, James, has just bought something that potentially could displace this car, in my eyes, as the best handling, best loved thing that I've ever experienced. And it is this, an Ariel Atom 3.5. Now these things I know are absolutely mental. I have to tell you, in the flesh it actually looks a lot bigger than I was expecting. Now I know that this car is going to be faster. It is going to handle better in terms of grip. The length of those sort of parallel swing arms, the double wishbones, you know, push rod suspension, it's got to handle a bit better than this. But as I said, there is more to this little S1 than you can tell straight off. So first of all, I'm going to take out the Atom, then we'll go back in the Elise and I'll see if my dreams of this being the best car I've ever had are going to be shattered or maybe not. So there are some interesting differences between the two cars. Although they are both sort of stripped out, extremely lightweight cars, this is far, far more extreme. First of all, as you can see, it looks beautiful, but it hardly has any bodywork. The other thing is that in terms of price, now the Frankenlease was an anomaly because I paid $7,000 for that car, but it had quite extensive chassis damage. If you were to get a usable, let's say, a usable S1 now, you would be paying about £15,000. To get an Ariel, an Atom 3.5, you're looking at sort of a well above 40 really. So price wise, this is almost double the price. However, it is almost double the power of my Elise. That has a VVC engine in it, so it has 145 horsepower, which is the same as the Sport 130 or whatever that was. This, with its supercharged Honda 2 litre, puts out 310 horsepower. Not only that, but the featherweight Elise, I think it's 680 kilos, something like that. The S1, I've forgotten the exact figures, but this is just over 500 kilos. I mean, this, you can see there's nothing to it. It is basically a motorbike on four wheels. Right everyone, well I deeply hope that we're going to be able to get sound on this. I've got a mic down there and there's also the GoPro one. I might do some stuff at lower speeds, but let's see. It's quite an involved thing just to get in and out of. It does make the Elise almost look practical because by the time you put the full harness on and everything else and get tucked in, it does take a while. Right. It's basically all business, this car. So first gear, I've already taken it for a little run. And the gearbox is absolutely fabulous. Really is just one of the greats. There's a little bit of clattering from the helper springs, which are part of the Bilstein package. This has the midway package, I think, in terms of shocks. So they're one-way adjustable Bilsteins. You can get the Olin setup. I think that's the top third spec. So the seats have zero padding, but they're actually quite comfortable because they're sort of sculpted out to your body, so they're really not bad at all. Gearbox, as I said, is immensely brilliant. Feels quite firmly sprung even at lower speeds. But it's not that hard to drive once you get used to how alien the whole car is. If you're seeing this, then I couldn't get the sound while the car was going, so I've just done this little backup clip to tell you what it's like. And what it's like is, it is incredibly brutal. It is so brutal that honestly, I can't even tell you if I actually enjoy it or not in the lower gears. I'm really surprised. You look at it, you think it's going to be quite a delicate car because it's so light, but it's a combination of things. That engine is in such a light package, and with the supercharger, it gives the kind of shove that I've experienced in very, very few cars. On top of that, this is a light car, so it's quite hard to keep it under control. The steering is absolutely incredibly telepathically direct. Now the gear change is absolutely fantastic. It's, you know, amongst the best that I've used. It's a Honda box and it is absolutely brilliant. Now there is also the thing that it feels like no other car you've ever been in. So you get this sort of rush of air, and really to drive it properly I think you'd need a helmet. I didn't use one because I was trying to get commentary. You can poodle around, sort of round up to about 50 and it's okay, 55 maybe. But when you get to 70, it's already starting to be a bit overwhelming on that side of things. It's maybe not as bad as you'd think with it being completely open. These little screens help a little bit, but ultimately it sort of overwhelms you. And the thing is, there's so much that you're getting from the car as you are driving that it becomes quite hard to process everything. So I was thinking when I was going around corners, obviously I was doing it on a really constant throttle, because the power can be so, it's measurable, but it's so violent that you just worry that it's just going to snap off into the hedge. And the thing is, there's so many sensations coming while you're driving this car that I almost found it hard to concentrate on the actual driving, on the way it drove. You know, it's extremely pointy. You get really good feedback, so you can feel exactly what the rears are doing. I think that if you were brave enough to get it to the limits of adhesion, it feels like it would let you know what it's doing. Now, James has had a couple of little experiences with it that say it might not be quite as easy as I think, but it does give you relative confidence. But it's just so dominated by the shove and power of that engine that the experience of the rest of the car almost, you don't pick up on it. It's almost there just to serve that engine. I'm going to take the Elise for a little run out and just see if the way I feel about it has really remained the same after this absolutely brutal beast. Now it's quite something when you get into an S1 Elise and you think, wow, this is actually quite a usable car, but that is what the Atom does to you. You open the door, you get in, you sit down, it's quite a comfortable driving position, you're shielded. And that is the thing about that Atom, it is so extreme that the driving experience is almost dominated by those outside factors as opposed to how it handles and how the chassis feels, which for me is the vast majority of what the Elise is about. Now this really couldn't feel any more different. It's just incredible how the things that I really love about the Elise is its delicacy. It feels like it's sort of on tiptoes all the time. Not in a negative sense, but just in the sense that it's so live. And when it turns, it's so neutral that the way it turns is just perfect. The amount of feel that you get is just incredible. It's so delicate, it's absolutely lovely, and I'm really relieved to say that the Atom is nothing like that. Because they're quite similar cars in some ways, I thought they would feel the same, and they absolutely don't. So the steering on the Elise is much lighter. I don't know why, because it actually weighs more. It must be to do with the geometry, maybe the width of the tyres, but the tyres on the Atom are quite narrow as well. But it's a totally different experience. This is all about the chassis. It's all about the sensations that you get from that, whereas the Atom is all about just trying to cope with the onrush of the openness, the air coming towards you. It's a car that has to be, in a way, sort of manhandled, and of course there is the violence of the power, which is just dumbfounding how quick that thing is. Obviously, it can put the power down being rear-engined, I suppose, or it manages to put that power down as well as it does, because it is essentially rear-engine. But that does mean that it doesn't flow through the corners in the same way as an Elise does. It can be incredibly fast. It's a car that I do really like, but luckily, it really hasn't in any way changed my love, deep love, by Elise S1, which is still, to me, the favourite car. It just kind of floats down the road, it's delicate, everything about it I just love. You know, that gruff K-Series engine. They're just fabulous little cars. And you can concentrate on what is happening with the car itself, because physically it's not as difficult as being in an Atom. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you, James, for letting me use your utterly mental Ariel, and really look forward to seeing you all for the next one. If you want me to, if there's a story you think I should be interested in, or a car that is unusual that I should do a video on, please contact me on Instagram. That's probably the best way, or you can email me. The email address is available through YouTube. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you for the next one.